We all know big is bigger than small. And of course, massive is bigger than big. And mega is even bigger than massive and way bigger than big. Well, this isn't big, and it's not massive, and it's not just mega. This is the Mega Massive Oh My Goodness Merry Mortgage Giveaway from Cable Bahamas. Our grand prize winner will get their mortgage and utilities paid for a full year. Another winner will get their utility payments, and another winner will get all their cable services for an entire year. That's up to $40,000 in prizes in the Mega Massive Oh My Goodness Merry Mortgage Giveaway. If you want to win, just sign up for REVOICE BAHAMALAND, the unlimited nationwide home phone service that's packed with features for one low price of just $14.99 a month. This is the time to upgrade your home phone service to REVOICE BAHAMALAND, and we'll pay your mortgage and utility payments up to $25,000 for a full year. REVOICE BAHAMALAND, the Bahamas' most reliable home phone service with nationwide coverage and a chance to win in the Mega Massive Oh My Goodness Merry Mortgage Giveaway.
A convicted armed robber and accused murderer released from prison. We'll tell you why. The financial secretary steps in to defend the role of a value-added tax commissioner, determining why the Bahamas has such a high incidence of breast cancer, and how witness intimidation may be interfering with the course of justice. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and your MB12 starts right now. Thanks for joining us. Convicted armed robber and accused murderer Corey Hepburn is now a free man. His attorney says he was formally charged in 2008 in connection with a deadly prison break that stunned Bahamians and captured news headlines back in 2006. However, he won't stand trial for that incident for another year and a half. That's 9 years after the prison break. Vaughn Iketut has the details of his release.
34-year-old Corey Hepburn has been granted bail and was released from Her Majesty's prisons on Monday. Now, if that name sounds familiar, that's because Hepburn was one of 4 prisoners allegedly involved in a deadly prison break back in 2006, which resulted in the deaths of prison officer Dion Bowles and another prisoner. What's interesting, though, is while Hepburn has been released, he won't stand trial for that incident until April 2015.
We had an application before Justice John Isaacs, Senior Justice, on Thursday, the 7th of November, when he was granted bail in the sum of $30,000 with 2 sureties.
National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage told us he was informed that the convicted armed robber was granted bail, adding he is having the matter reviewed. Hepburn was released after spending well over a decade behind bars. In fact, when that deadly prison break occurred on the morning of January 17, 2006, he was serving a 20-year prison sentence after being convicted in 2001 of armed robbery, firearm and ammunition possession, as well as housebreaking. His attorney, Monique Gomez, says the Elizabeth Estates resident completed his sentence earlier this year, but remained behind bars awaiting trial along with Barry Pacoy and Forrester Bowe Jr. for the stabbing death of Corporal Dion Bowles during their alleged escape.
He's completed his sentence over a year, more than a year. So, and the trial is not slated for another 2 years. So, of course, it's unfair for him to just be sitting there. The Constitution guarantees that you should be tried within a reasonable time, and I mean, it's now already 2013.
A coroner's jury investigated the circumstances of Bowles' death and recommended that the men face murder charges. Gomez says the major delay is indicative of the massive backlog of court cases and is a serious indictment on our system. However, she feels it's unfair, considering the Marco Archer murder trial concluded less than 2 years after the 11-year-old boy was murdered.
It is unfair. That is unfair. The Marco Archer, I sympathize with the family of the young boy, because I agree, you need to try and get these matters dealt with swiftly. And it's important, though, that everybody has a fair shake.
Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson didn't comment on Hepburn's case specifically, but said officials find the tremendous backlog disturbing.
We are very disturbed about the fact that matters are being set out into 2015. But the reality is that with the limited number of courts that we have, that's exactly what's happening. We're trying to get the backlog on and deal with the current situation. And so more courts on stream, the capacity will be there, the resources will be there.
Though Hepburn is a free man for now, he will be electronically monitored. He has a curfew and has to check into the Elizabeth Estates police station daily. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Well, a 43-year-old police constable is in police custody today after 2 family members were stabbed last night. According to police reports, shortly after 9 p.m., they were called to a home in Sir Lyndon Pinling Estates where they found a man and woman suffering from multiple stab wounds. The victims were taken to hospital where the woman is in critical condition and the male victim is in serious condition. Well, Financial Secretary John Roll today defending the position of a value-added tax commissioner, which will have the power to enforce VAT once implemented. While Roll would not comment on the details of the draft VAT legislation obtained by the Nassau Guardian, he confirmed that a commissioner will be charged with enforcing aspects of the legislation.
There will be something of that sort. There will be persons who will be charged with the administration of VAT, and they will have to exercise the powers in the legislation in terms of assessments of the taxes that are due, whether there are instances of fraud and which penalties need to be levied. And in that regard, there won't be anything out of the ordinary in terms of the tax administration structure in the Bahamas versus other countries that have gone this route.
A prominent businessman telling Guardian Business that the powers given to a VAT commissioner under the draft legislation could be setting a dangerous precedent and may be unconstitutional. Operations manager at Nassau Motor Company, Rick Lowe, says notwithstanding any law to the contrary, the government seems bound to make criminals of us all, as it seems due process is being thrown out of the window. According to the draft VAT legislation, the commissioner would be able to decide unilaterally, or in some cases with the permission of the Revenue Court, whether heavy enforcement measures will be taken against those who commit VAT-related infractions. Today, Roll responded to those concerns.
I'm not going to comment directly to the legislation, but you will find that in our tax codes generally, those who are responsible for administering the legislation and the regulations, they are empowered to make certain decisions. And then there's always an appeals process, which in our system take persons through the judicial system as well. So there wouldn't be any difference under a VAT administration in terms of the appeals process if persons are aggrieved by decisions that are taken.
The process of selecting a VAT commissioner is ongoing. This as Roll also revealed that some of the proceeds of VAT would be directed to assist in alleviating poverty in the Bahamas. Back in July, former Prime Minister of Barbados, Owen Arthur, told the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce that VAT has a tendency to hit the pockets of the poor disproportionately. He said it was important to build special discriminatory features into the tax structure that would allow some of the proceeds to be redistributed to their advantage. That, Roll says, will be a part of the VAT rollout in the Bahamas.
That is a prerequisite, and it is always required in this type of reform. And you will see the government discussing extensively the kind of responses that will target the poor and those who are very vulnerable. The government will have to spend the most in terms of assisting those who are at risk and are exposed during the first year that the VAT is introduced. And in subsequent years, the government will be in the position to gradually reduce the added expenditure on those programs. Because what we have ahead of us is a reform that's going to be positive for the economy.
Roll says government will continue to work on improving public education of VAT. The first in a series of value-added tax workshops started tonight at 7:30. Among other things, the town hall meeting is expected to answer the questions: why VAT, what is VAT, and how will VAT work? Government has promised to make legislation public by the end of this year. Cancer researchers and geneticists say they are one step closer to determining why Bahamians have the highest prevalence of a genetic mutation that places them at a higher risk for developing breast cancer. Lead geneticist for the Bahamas Breast Cancer Initiative Foundation, Dr. Stephen Narod, revealed some of the study's findings last night. Jasmine Bonmi has more in this report.
Experts say the gene mutation that is seen in 27% of Bahamian breast cancer patients is likely due to the small gene pool as well as the small population. Narod, a professor at the University of Toronto, said 1 in 10 Bahamian women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. The BBCIF has launched an aggressive campaign to test 8,000 women over 4 years to determine their risk of cancer and see if they have the mutated gene.
The people that have it tend to have the same mutations. We first found 3 different ones, and through a lot more close looking, we come up with 7. 6 of them are in BRCA1 and 1 in BRCA2. Put it this way, many of them have the same mutation. So if we see 2 women with the same mutation, those women are related. They don't necessarily know it. In fact, a lot of times they don't know it. But we know as geneticists that they had an ancestor, whether it was a great-grandparent, grandparent, or generally one sees this when there's small island populations. Or to put it another way, if you took out those genetic ones, the Bahamas would go from the top of the list to the middle of the list.
He added that the Bahamas ranks among the top 20 countries for breast cancer diagnosis. It also ranks first in the world for the prevalence of the gene mutation in breast cancer patients, with Israel coming in second with 12%. The foundation plans to raise $1.6 million over 4 years to fund the potentially life-saving research. The BBCIF first started testing for the BRCA1 gene in 2008. Last year, genetic counselor Megan Trottier was brought in to spearhead the project. She says so far this year they have tested 1,600 women with these results.
Of the 1,600 women tested so far, most of them actually did not have breast cancer. Most of them came either with a family history or without, but not having breast cancer themselves. And so in that population of women, about 6% so far have tested positive.
She adds that since testing began in 2008, 23% of the women tested positive for the gene mutation. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonami.